Cassano, Abruzzi in central Italy. Leni, a village on the island of Salina in the Mediterranean. Sant'Eufemia a Maiella, and Castiglione a Cassoaria, Abruzzi. What do these places have in common? These are the areas in Italy from which 4 families made their way to Australia. Their dreams in a suitcase to build a future in a new land. Ennio and Perpetua Ruscitti, Bruno and Mary Merlino, Vicenzina and Charlie Borelli, and Pasquale and Giovanna Troiani. It was in the Yarra Valley, Lilydale, Sylvan, Wandon and surrounds that these families forged a new path, their shared Italian and Catholic heritage branching out into the multi-layered journeys as they adopted Australia as their own. Building a future in Australia for their families was important. Education was seen as pivotal, and where else for their secondary years but the school on the hill, Mount Lilydale Mercy College, formerly called St. Joseph's Mount and founded in 1896. Peter Ruscitti, Maria McCarthy, née Borelli, the Honourable James Merlino, Deputy Premier, and Lucia Reig, née Tabacchiera, are 4 alumni of the college with a valued Italian heritage who have distinguished themselves in the wider community.
This evening I'm pleased to welcome Peter, Maria, James and Lucia to share an evening with us, a convivial conversation and stories of their Italian heritage and their journey as students here at Mount Lilydale Mercy College. We are in the room that was the initial parlour, and the most significant thing about this, I suppose, is where the Sisters of Mercy interviewed prospective students. Our most significant document is a letter written by Mother Patrick Maguire to the Bergie family, who are significant in this area, requesting that their daughter start at Mount Lilydale in 1896. Wow. Yes, and we have that letter. So in this same room, Nellie Melba sang at soirees with in this room. She donated her phaeton to the sisters. The special image of the Order of the Sisters of Mercy as designated by T. Kirby, Archbishop of Ephesus, in July 1890 and blessed by the Pope with the words Molto Bella, is located in the Church of St. Pudenziana in Rome. And finally, of course, another thing about this room that's significant, the window there, the outlook is the pergola and the stone wall that was built by the Italian masons who were part of the construction of the Sylvan Dam. So you can see that our story is very closely woven in with the Italian heritage story, even though the Sisters of Mercy are an Irish group of nuns. It's so terrific to have you all here tonight. And Peter, as our most senior Old Collegian, would you be, well, here tonight, would you be so kind as to say grace?
Love to. Thanks, Trish. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for giving our parents the opportunity to have chosen Australia to migrate to and build a new life on this continent with opportunities abound. We further give thanks that our parents gave us the opportunity to be educated by teachers within the Order of Sisters of Mercy and with the guiding light of Catherine Macaulay. We give you thanks for this friendship that has been forged from within the community of Mount Lilydale Mercy College, and that we are able to spread the fellowship of the Mount Lilydale Mercy College Old Collegians Association. And we thank those old collegians, in particular Mary Tabacchieri, for providing this wonderful meal that we are about to share. Amen.
Amen.
Father,
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. It's lovely to be here tonight, and coming together around a table is central to your Italian background, so that's why we figured we'd do it this way. It's also part of a Christ-centred ideology. He gathered together with his disciples at the Last Supper. And of course, for Catherine Macaulay, the foundress of the Sisters of Mercy, hospitality was key. So Peter has already acknowledged Mary, and thank you, Mary, for this wonderful meal that you've provided for us. Mary was a student at the college as well. So do you have a special memory, any of you, about being Italian and coming to Mount Lilydale?
Dad's from the Aeolian Islands, and Mum was born here, but her family's from Filicudi. Dad was born in Salina. Mum and Dad didn't speak a lot at home. Yeah, so it wasn't... They only spoke Italian or dialect when they didn't want us to know what they were talking about. So you asked about Italian heritage and coming to Mount Lilydale. For me, it was a revelation. Going from a very Anglo primary school to a high school where so many kids had the same experience, the same culture, the same types of families that I grew up in. So it was actually quite wonderful coming to Mount Lilydale at that time.
I believe, and I've been saying this for a long time, I would say it's important not to lose a dialect. Because you lose a dialect, you lose a culture.
Yeah. I had the shock of my life because we spoke dialect at home, so to me that was Italian.
Yes.
That was Italian to me, so I decided to make it easy for me. I would do Italian in year 12. I could pass that surely. My first lesson I failed. He goes, "You're not speaking Italian." I said, "What do you mean I was speaking Italian? That's what I speak all the time. My grandparents, my parents." He goes, "No, you speak a dialect." I go, what are you talking about, a dialect? I'd never heard of a dialect before. To me it was always what we spoke.
Anyone have a special memory that they want to share about starting here?
I like the way the nuns really did look after us. Do you remember Sister Claire?
She was lovely.
She was beautiful. Yeah. Sister Claire. She was beautiful.
Yeah. But I got on well with Mr. Munro.
Oh, I did get on well with Mr. Munro. He was easy.
Probably because I liked geography anyway. So
But
I was going on to do... Pardon?
He was a delight to get on.
Oh, yeah.
What did
I
the men
remember
do
how
last time?
big the school was.
Oh,
Coming
yes.
from a primary school, how big it was, how many students, how far we had to go to do PE, sport,
Oh, yeah.
down the hill.
Down the hill. Quarry Road.
So in terms of this school and your Italian heritage and your journey in Lilydale, how has it all merged together, particularly as all four of you have chosen community-based careers, lifestyles? I often see you having coffee with gentlemen of your ilk, you know, in Lilydale.
Yeah, retail and being such a local person and just having that connection with the local community.
Yeah, the confidence that Mount Lilydale sort of installed in me it's just a natural thing to just...
So if we get back to your Italian heritage, this particular meal we're eating, I actually go to an Italian hairdresser and I said what was happening tonight, and she said, "Oh, you're going to, I bet, have this dish with cheese and so on." It is a traditional dish, isn't it, Lucia?
It's one of the basics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ravioli,
Pasta,
gnocchi, or
yeah.
spaghetti, or
Yeah.
But
penne.
can I tell you that I think from James's background and possibly close, see, fish wasn't a big part of ours.
No.
Because we were up in the mountains, and
Yeah.
so it was more lamb, you know, lamb. Whereas I dare say, like the Ionian Islands, there was fish, you know.
Isn't it interesting? Like, I always remember my nonna, you know, on Friday it was always fish on Friday. So like, you know, no matter what, it was always the fish.
Yes.
So, you know.
Hello, James.
Hi Trish.
It's lovely to have this opportunity to speak with you today, and thank you
Pleasure.
for giving up your time. James, you attended the college from 1985 to 1990, and during that time it was really a period of great stability for the college. Sister Beth Calthorpe was the principal,
That's right.
and in your final year, our first lay principal, Dr. John Goodfellow,
Yes.
OAM, was appointed to the position of principal. Would you like to share with me some of the special memories of your years?
Yeah, I loved my time at Mount Lilydale College, and I remember fondly the Year 11 trip to Central Australia, which was a huge highlight. I remember getting sick doing the cross country. I just remember great friends, great teachers. Everyone has, teachers that they think back and remember, and you never forget those really special teachers. And I joke that Paul Desmond is to blame for my political career. So he was my politics teacher, and he was a big influence. You could never work out where he voted, and it's a sign of a good teacher, good politics teacher. But he was a great encourager.
Was it something to do with your Italian background, perhaps that commitment to a Labor Party?
Yeah, I think it was a strong focus on family, a Catholic upbringing, so St Edmunds in Croydon, then Mount Lilydale at secondary, and it just developed both within the family and at school and Catholic social teaching a strong emphasis on social justice. So I was really involved in the community first, the local neighbourhood house. Then I joined the party, just got involved again, a bit more involved locally, ran for council, was on council for almost 6 years.
I remember that because I remember you delivering pamphlets in our street.
That's right.
Electioneering.
Yeah, it's a long time ago now. It was the first democratically elected council in Yarra Ranges, so 1997. And then a couple of terms there, and then I put my hand up for the state seat of Monbulk. So it's been a real journey, but the genesis of it was just through school and through family.
And you've maintained a strong connection with your old school, your alma mater.
Yep.
How has that been for you? Why did you make that choice then, James?
It's a good question. I remember when I first got elected in 2002, and Joan Kerner, former Premier, she said to me, I was really young, green, and she said to me, never forget your roots, never forget where you come from. And I've never forgotten that advice. And I reckon it's really important that you don't forget where you come from, you don't forget why you're in that role. And so I think it is important that I keep that connection to my old school and to my community, and I've tried to do that for 20 plus years now.
So if we could talk about you as the Minister for Education, to what extent did the mercy values that might have been instilled in you at Mount Lilydale affect some of the decisions you've made in later life in terms of education?
Yeah, it instilled in me a real desire to make sure that every child's experience, every student's experience was as good as mine. The other thing it instilled in me is the most important thing, the greatest difference in a young person's life, first and foremost, is their family. So your family is the greatest determinant of your education. So our first educators are mums and dads. But beyond that, the greatest influence on a young person is the quality of the teaching. And that's been a real driver for me as well, making sure that the quality of our teaching is excellent right across the state. And then there's, the teaching around social justice, supporting our most disadvantaged kids, uniforms on their backs, shoes on their feet, a full stomach with breakfast clubs. A lot of that has been through Catholic social teaching within the education system.
Now, James, when we decided to set up an Old Collegians Association, you were very supportive. You came along to our first meeting. Then in 2013, you were inducted to the Mercy Honour Roll. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was a special a special honour, really, and quite humbling as well. I was really touched that I was nominated to be on the honour roll, and I think it's important that we celebrate the heritage of where we come from and our schools, and I think it's important that Mount Lilydale had a really successful and vibrant Old Collegians association. Mount Lilydale has been an iconic school in not just for Lilydale, but right across this region, and many people love the school very, very much, and you see generations of families come through Mount Lilydale College, and I think that's why I was so supportive of an Old Collegians. You know, every school should have a really strong alumni and Old Collegians because we love that school.
Well, James, you've been very generous in giving your time today, and I thank you very much.
Thanks, Trish.
Hello, Maria. Lovely to see you here this afternoon.
Hello, Patricia. It's lovely that you invited me here today.
Now, Maria, you watched the girls' college become co-educational, attending the college from 1971 to 1976.
I did.
We'd be delighted to hear some of your anecdotes of that time.
Thinking back, I've spent a couple of days going through some old photos that I took, and I used to enjoy taking my own photographs of that time, and I've got some really good pictures, or treasured pictures I should say now, of us girls in our old Mount Lilydale College uniform, and they were a time where the older students were revered by us younger students, and by the time we got to be the older students, that's when it became co-educational, and there was no reverence then for the older students. So when it came to our turn to get into Form 6 and have Year 7s to be telling Year 7s what to do, like pick up the bit of paper or don't drop paper, they were telling us, well, you pick it up. Why should we be doing what you're telling us? So I'm going, hang on, when did the tables turn here?
So what was it like when boys arrived to the girls' school on the hill?
It was from my perspective, there was a huge shift. It was a huge shift from being a very formal girls' school, and the nuns took you onto, if they didn't like the length of your dresses, skirts were any more than 5 inches off the ground. The hems got ripped open and let down so that you would have to fix it by the next morning. However, we had belts on our dresses, so when we left school, we could hitch our dresses up to make them short again. So that always solved that problem.
Now, Marie, you've had a long association with the college through your husband as well. Would you like to share a couple of stories about his aunt, who I believe attended the college?
That's right. Patricia, his aunt, Auntie Betty, attended Mount Lilydale College, and we have a beautiful old postcard that she sent. They lived at Sylvan at the time, and Sylvan was too far to get to school every day, so she became a boarder here, and from Sylvan, to Sylvan, she sent a postcard of Mount Lilydale when it was the original building, just Mount St Joseph on its own. And on the back, there's a beautiful little note, with love from Betty, in our own handwriting. So we just, we treasure that. And I also have a long association through my mother as well. My mum never came to school here, but she had a very strong association with the Mercy nuns here. Patricia, the nuns had a kind heart for my mother. They because she was a new migrant here, they took pity on her because she had to leave school early to help with her parents on the farm. So when she got married, they invited her back for high tea here, which was just beautiful, and they presented her with a small gift. So this is an item that the nuns had made for her. It's a very old scapular, and then when you open it, inside is just a cross and 2 little medallions. But my mum's treasured this from her wedding that the nuns had given her.
Of course, the story of the college is so closely interwoven with the Italian story in the settlement of Lilydale, so I suppose that's part of the connection there, isn't it?
Well, it's a strong connection because in our culture, our religion is intertwined with the way we live, and respect for the nuns has always been there from day one. A person that gives up their life for community work is always to be respected. So for us, the nuns were always held in high esteem. So
now, Maria, you chose to send your 2 children, Christopher and Andrea, to this school. I had the pleasure of teaching both of them.
I know, which is beautiful.
And so how was it for you?
I thoroughly enjoyed having my children come back to the school that I went to, And to come back, when they started here, to come back and find that the vinyl was still on the floor in the junior building.
Now, you obviously love the school and you've given so much. You joined the Old Collegians Association, and in 2015 you were inducted into the Mercy Honour Roll. How was that experience for you, Maria?
It was an overwhelming experience, Patricia. I wasn't expecting to have the recognition that was bestowed on me. I just do what I do because I want to. The school to me has been an integral part of my life. I have great respect for the nuns. To think that they were strong businesswomen of their time, for them to come here back in the 1800s, purchased a plot of land, had the foresight to put education here, to do what they've done for the community here has just been amazing, and I have great respect and admiration for those women.
Now, Maria, as mayor, as a councillor prior to that, and as a secretary of the Yarra Valley Italian Cultural Association, you're strongly involved in the local community. Do you want to talk a little bit more about how you are involved?
With my grandparents migrating here to Australia and with my father migrating here to Australia, we don't have a lot of big shoes or stepping stones to follow. And I realised that my culture is in another country, so I could never see when my parents, or what my parents talked about, or what my grandparents talked about. But other people here could see what their culture had come from. And to me, it was important to preserve. So hence I got involved with the Museum Trust. It was important to have a good regional museum. From there, I discovered that Luigi Fattia was creating a book about the early Italian settlement in the valley. I believed it was important to get these stories into a book before the narrators were no longer able to tell their stories. So I think that's where my goal is, to make bigger steps for our community so that we've got some pride, that we have something here, that we have some history and some culture. And through the Yarra Valley Italian Cultural Group, through that we've made connections with Anthony McAleer, and he discovered that there was even more earlier settlements of Italians that came to the Yarra Valley, and to discover that there's unmarked Italian graves at the Lilydale Cemetery. We've got some beautiful history, and also through Anthony McAleer we've discovered that we had Italians that served in the First World War, in the Second World War. We had no idea. Those stories got lost, which is really sad. So it's important to share those stories and make sure that those stories stay alive.
Well, Maria, thank you very much for coming in today. Your story is so important to all of us.
Thank you, Patricia. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Peter.
How are you, Trish?
I'm very well, and thank you so much for coming in this afternoon to share
Pleasure.
some of your story
Pleasure.
about your Italian heritage, about being a businessman in Lilydale, and about being a student of Mount Lilydale Mercy College, or in your days, Mount Lilydale College.
It was.
Now, Peter, how did it feel coming to the school on the hill as a young man when it had previously been an all-girls school?
Yeah, sure, Trish. So I came to Mount Lilydale to repeat Form 6 in those days, HSC, and there would have only been two people I knew. One was my sister, who was 4 years younger than me, and her friend who lived just up the road. So it was quite daunting.
You've built up, though, a network of people that you met through your school days.
It was such a small community of students that you pretty well got on with everyone, from primary school girls through to your fellow mates in Form 6, you know.
And Peter, you were elected the school captain along with Angela Pacetti that year, so what was that like?
It was a great year, but it was quite funny because Matthew Scully, he was a very sports orientated. I think he went on and played football with Paran, so he became sports captain. Martin Prescott was brilliant with, he was such a caring guy. He actually went on and did psychology, I think. So he became the SRC representative, president, and just left me with the captaincy, so it was good, it was fun.
So, Peter, you've been a wonderful supporter of the school, and you've been involved in lots of different ways I remember fashion parades here
Yes,
that you
yes.
conducted. Do you want to talk a little bit about that involvement as a businessman and coming up and doing things at the college?
Yes, well, I think we were approached by the late Kath Tricarico and the Mothers Club there. So they were fundraising, and yeah, I remember Peter Anderson, the late Peter Anderson. They were just great fundraising nights, yeah. And of course, debutante balls, like I've been fitting them out forever and a day. If God willing, I've been approached already for next year, would become my 43rd year in a row that I've been decking out the boys for their debutante ball suits, yeah.
And you're often decking them out again for their weddings too, I believe.
And I've done quite a few weddings, yeah.
So you're a very highly respected businessman in Lilydale. I believe you won the Business of the Year a few years ago by the Chamber of Commerce. And so what's it like for you being that figure in a business that's so significant in Lilydale?
Don't know about a figure. I think you just choose to do your job and do it right.
Well, your right thing is your urbane manner, the way you engage with your customers is very significant, Peter.
Well, yes. You know, I guess I'm out there to outfit, and we have such a broad range of customers, you know, from young through to 100-year-olds.